Welcome to Two Couples Coaches podcast, where certified relational life coaches Bev and Suzette guide you through the highs, lows, and in-betweens of love and relationships. Trained by Terry Real and the Relational Life Institute, Bev and Suzette help couples and individuals create deeper connections. Whether you are in a relationship that spans many years, navigating a new relationship, or simply seeking better ways to communicate, this podcast is your weekly roadmap to love, deeper connection, and relational growth. So now, please welcome the hosts of Two Couples Coaches, Bev and Suzette.
Hi, Rivka.
Hello, Bev. How are you?
Good, thanks. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Two Couples Coaches. And today I have a very special guest whom I've known on a personal level since we were young moms, and we would always then already have deep conversations. And as the intro said, we are talking about a roadmap to relationships, which is so appropriate and fitting for a new development in your professional life. So, we're talking today about me first, the surprising truth about self care and healthy relationships, and why is it so hard to do things we know are good for us, like getting enough sleep, eating well, staying active, nurturing relationships, and finding purpose. And would you like to say a few words? Who you are, where we're speaking to you from? Tell
Sure.
us.
So we are actually in the same town. We are in Modi'in in Israel. I was born in the Netherlands, and I came when I was 18. It almost seems like I was a different person then. I'm very lucky because my parents moved to Israel about 14 years ago, and that was wonderful for my two children, Geffen and Noad, who are now older already. Geffen is turning 29 and is married to a wonderful husband, Amit. And Noad is 24, turning 25 on Friday, studying Japanese. And I have very lucky to have a wonderful relationship with my life partner, Steve, who is the father of my children. Yeah, and that would be who I am as a person, the part of me that is the family part, that obviously is very, very impactful on
Right.
who I am and how I show up in the world. Yeah.
So recently you've done a transition in your career.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
a transition, but I think rather the correct term would be you've added a layer of
Mm,
richness to your
yes.
offerings.
Yeah.
Um, can you share a little bit about what self-care means to you personally and why you made this transition?
Absolutely. So I was trained as a classical homeopath, and for 28 years I had a thriving practice here in Modi'in. I started out super young. I was 26. I think around the time you and I met, I was
Mhm.
27. I did the math today. Today I'm 54. And I saw in my practice all those years that really what gets people stuck is self-care, and how to show up authentically in relationships. Because when I think of self-care, I don't think of bubble baths or hot showers, even though sometimes they can be part of caring for ourselves. But really think of care as the juice that makes relationships go, is when we care for each other, and when we know that we have each other's backs, we we tend to have healthy, thriving relationships. We can weather storms, and we build trust and intimacy that we can get through things. Um, but because people came to me as a homeopath mostly with health issues, and later on, as things develop, with a lot of emotional things that got them stuck in life, I started seeing that showing up authentically and daring to say no to other people, and even just figuring out what it is that you want, it's not that easy. We live in an era where self-care is not prioritized. What is valued is money, is power, is what happens outside in the world. And I don't say that doesn't have value. It does, but caring and the juice it takes, to mother, to parent, for us to mother, obviously, or even to have healthy, thriving relationships with the people around you. It's not something that is valued in our lives, and so a lot of people haven't really learned uh, what that means to care, and also because caring is not valued, it is not practiced that often. And then I feel like in our society, caring is kind of sold as as something you need to do, like a formula that you need to conquer, and then you will succeed. But really, caring is about getting to know the other person, getting to know yourself. And so, because I thought, wow, I just saw this over and over again, even like, let's say, as a parent, sometimes we can worry so much, right, when our kid is not well. But really, the issue, is inside of us. We're the ones that don't know how to take care of things. And sometimes even bringing your child to practice would be because people themselves were scared to take up that space, and first take care of themselves. And then I was very lucky. I had a wonderful client who is one of those connector people. And she said, I met a sleep coach. She helped me with my child to have him sleep. And I just think like you guys would hit it off. And that's how I met Dorit Shoshani. And many, many years ago, about 14 years ago, we had a parenting course that we made, which was called The Parent Within Me. And what people said, the whole idea about the parenting course was, if you as a parent know what you want to do and know how you want to be, then your child will always know where to find you. It is like a GPS finding, a location, and that creates a lot of safety. And people in this course said, it's like a relationship thing. And from that, basically, the GPS within was born. And it is a metaphor for connection and for life. And a GPS is kind of like a very neutral thing everybody understands. That in a relationship, if I want to go travel to you, Bev, first thing I do is I know where I want to go. So I show intention and awareness of what it is that I want to have happen. But the GPS first needs to know where I am before I'm able to calculate a location. So this is why me first, because without knowing where I am, I can't have any healthy relationship. And then if we're in the car, we might already check our dashboard, right? And then see, do we have enough gas to even get to the other person? Maybe there's some warning signs. Maybe there's not enough air in our tires. So for example, in the GPS within, we have this wonderful tool. We call it the 4 tires. And it's the main tool that helps you identify what your needs are. But before I go on, do you want to ask something, or shall I keep talking? What's good for you?
Yeah, no, I'd like to jump in. And
Good.
I wanted to highlight some of the things that you'd shared. Um, we can't be in relationship with other unless we're in relationship with ourselves.
That's right.
And yet we don't want to only be self-empowered. We want to
That's
also
right.
be relationally empowered. And you used the word. So two things I wanted to highlight. I tell my clients that they'll be in the driver's seat. They'll decide how fast, how slow, but I'll hold the GPS. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do the guiding. And I do, because it's very easy to be, as one of my mentors, Bonnie Slim, once said, you could be the kind of coach that's like a kite, that your clients will take you wherever they want to go. Oh, my dog died yesterday, but we were talking about your mother and your anger with her. And not to necessarily just go anywhere, but to
Mm-hmm.
stay focused. And when you drive, as you say, you need to do a recalculation all the time. You don't hold the steering wheel still. You're
Yeah.
adjusting all the time, constantly. And that is relationship. People think like, I have a relationship. But it's, as Thomas Hubel will say, it's moment to moment. I'm reading
Yes.
you, I'm feeling you, feeling me. And it needs those adjustments. So, what I love about what you said, you use the word intention. And in our work as RLT coaches, we use the miracle question. People can come in and very clearly say, this is the problem. He is the problem. She's the problem. They're essentialists. If you could just fix that person, we'll be golden. And that intention gets you to think inwardly, what do I want? When I see clients sitting and saying, well, I don't want him to be like this, I will always bring it back to them. What do
Yeah.
you want?
What do
And
you
what are you prepared to do for that? So I love the fact that you start with that intention. I'd like to hear more about, so what would a client come in with? What is their request? You know,
Yeah.
Rivka, sorry, I'm going to stop you because we're going to go on to a commercial break. But when we come back, I'd really like to hear what kind of things do clients come in with when we come back. We're just going to take a 2-minute break. So you're watching Two Couples Coaches on Bold Brave TV. We'll be back in 2 minutes after the sponsor break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hi, we're back in conversation with Rifka, who has developed the internal GPS. Did I get that right? No.
Oh, it's called no. But it's okay because that's good. That gives me an opportunity to say it myself. We have developed a method, which is an internal navigation system, and it's called the GPS Within. I've developed it together with Dorit Shoshani. And so Dorit and I have been working together for a long time. Yeah. And so I was a homeopath for many years. And this year it really felt authentically that I was ready to coach the GPS in my practice. And so that's what I've been doing. And you asked what kind of things people come with. And so it is very interesting because I think, like for many years, I dealt with people with health issues and really getting sick in a way is getting stuck, right? Because when we are sick, we're not able to really do what we want to do. And I'm really of the belief that that's the one thing we can count on in life, that we can't count on anything and that we always get stuck and that life is built like that. It is a continuation of a mismatch and then the discomfort with that and a repair. And this is the way that we grow in life. So when people come to me, they come really with a sense of stuckness. And that can be like, for example, people with a chronic disease have it's very, very challenging to be in relationship with yourself with the chronic disease and to both, acknowledge the discomfort of the things that you're going through and truly helping yourself, but also to explain yourself to the people outside without making yourself into a victim. So within this, there's like a stuck in a flow, right? When we're driving, we want to be driving. We like green waves, but sometimes we get a red light and then we get an opportunity to either, recalibrate or take a different route. So people get stuck all the time. And so I have people who are in their late 70s, discussing with me what life looks like for them turning older, and how do they talk with their children about what they're going through. Again, not in a way that will define them, but that they'll be able to share their journey and also get to know themselves better and support and have that relationship with yourself, because the longer you go through life, the more versions of yourself you know. And so when you are in transition, or I help a lot of parents, that need to navigate between work and their relationship and their parent and their parenting. And also people that have finished the army or university and all of a sudden need to make a new career. So really anything, I think that any person that feels they're stuck and would like to get tools how to get unstuck, which is basically taking care of yourself, getting to know yourself, and also understanding the roadmaps, right? Because we have these highways of habits. We have these things that we do. Just the other day, I needed to go somewhere, and I ended up at a friend's house. It was hilarious. I was like, oh, I did a highway of habit. So it's the things that we do without even noticing. And
Right.
very often these are, these are things that we learn in our childhood or in really, really difficult situations. So our neural pathways when kind of deep in these grooves are things that we tend to go back to. And so when people come with the GPS, that's also part of what we can do. You can go, what I love about the GPS is that you can go as deep as you want. You can make it very, very simple. You can have a route that you want to take. I just retired and I want to know how I'm going to fill my time. And you can just look at that. Or I won the lottery. I became really rich, and I helped my in-laws. But now I want to also give money to my family. But my family is quite rich. So who am I? Who is this new person that I am? Could be like something like that. It's not, again, we can get stuck in all kind of ways. Where is our loyalty and why is it there? And so I also say to my clients that I'm the driving instructor, but I say that they are the GPS. I say that they will find their inner GPS, and I make suggestions, and we see where they're going to, and we understand and check why they go that way. So one thing I do that actually I want to share that I think is different than most people do is that I work with a whiteboard in my practice. I let my clients write down their thoughts, because we like speeding in life, and when we slow down and we become more aware of what we're thinking, it's very helpful. And then I use that too, the whiteboard to teach concepts. Like, for example, a highway of habit, or what I said before, I was talking about the 4 tires. So we have this concept about taking care of our needs. It's just like a car cannot roll, not even talking about the ignition, but a car cannot roll if there's not enough air in the tires. And so we have this concept of our essential needs that, you have those times that you just feel so discombobulated and you are so flooded and you don't know how to regulate yourself. And then you have these 4 tires that you can look at. And so our 4 tires are the tire of sleep, the tire of nourishment, of nutrition, the tire of movement, and the tire of structure. But those tires are not atomistic items, they're relational items, because every person needs a different kind of sleep. I do much better if I wake up every day between 10 to 6 and 6:20. And Steve, my partner, does much better, and because of that I need to go to sleep early. He does a night owl. He does much better when he goes to sleep late. So just like the tire pressure in every car is different, movement for each person is different, and nourishment for each person is different. Like, everybody wants to know the rules, right? Tell me the rules so I can be safe in life. But really, the way to be safe is that you can observe yourself without judging yourself and figuring it out. Like, I started, like, if we take the sleeping thing, I started sleeping so badly like a couple weeks ago. And then I was like, ooh, I stopped waking up at the same time. And I know that my sleep tire needs a
Right.
consistent hour. And then with structure too, we like to know when we're going to have breakfast, dinner, for example, or we like to have a clean house. But sometimes we need to be flexible. Sometimes after we've cleaned for a long time, we need to make our structure tire flexible. So it's never that the tire is fully filled. It should be filled enough. It should be empty enough that you can roll. And so these 4 tires are like a wonderful tool to to go to go to for self-care, just to ground yourself enough to then see how you want to show up,
Right.
in your relationship with yourself or with the people that you love. Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of things that I made some notes.
That's
um, and we live in a very fast-paced life,
yeah.
society. And one of the things I know I tell my couples is that urgency is not your friend. Your
Oh yeah.
breath is your friend. It's been with you from the moment you were born, and it's been with you through difficult times, it's been with you through easy times. And we might think that urgency will get us to do something quicker, but it blocks out the whole picture. So if we can take that time to reflect, what is it that I need right now? So you might speak to people about, let's say, overeating when they're not actually hungry. What is that? What is it that I need right now? I would speak to the inner child who
Mm,
sometimes is driving the bus and needs to get his sticky hands or her sticky hands off the steering wheel of the relationship.
yeah.
What is
It's
it
nice
that's not
that you,
your
yeah.
part? Not that
Mm,
your partner can give that to you. What can I give to myself right now? So I know for myself, during the day, sometimes I need to switch off. That's what resets me. Is just not having time. I was speaking to my husband, Adrian, about how much time in the day do we spend not being stimulated. Today, even going to the bathroom, one takes a book, one takes the phone, you're in the car, you're listening to a podcast. So for me, I will take quiet time, and
yeah.
there's no guilt. There's no guilt
Yeah.
about it because it resets me. And knowing that is very important, like you say about your sleep.
Yeah.
So the last piece that I wanted to amplify from what you were saying, as adults, we have choice, we have agency, and Thomas Hugel puts
Absolutely.
it so beautifully that to observe is to have choice. We don't
Absolutely.
have to be victims. Children are kind of like prisoners to their parents. They have to do what their parents say. And today I was walking and I was watching a man putting a young child who was kvetching and moaning into a car seat and saying, I have to get to work. You need to get into the car seat. And she was being buckled up. There was nowhere she could go.
I know
You
it's so
know,
tough. Yeah.
and that's the
But
difference between the
sometimes
child and the
I
adult.
think, like, yeah, I like that you bring up this idea even of buckling the child up, because sometimes, we have a part in ourselves that is like a child, that 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 can be at the driver's seat. Like, if you look at this, what you were talking about the fast pacedness, and how, you and I have the luxury of going to the bathroom, like, let's say, and take a break. When you're a young parent and you have 3 children, running after you, it is more difficult. It's a harder thing to do. But I also think that what you were talking about this, the sticky hands on the wheel, about the child that thinks that they need to take care of needs. It's almost like what you were saying is, when you're an adult, you have choice. When you have a child, you don't have choice. So when we start getting to that point where we feel really, really uncomfortable, we call this the road of discomfort in the GPS. So most of the time we will first start arguing with our discomfort, right? I mean, I think even the Dalai Lama would say he would not be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it's a human condition that we want to make things go away. And that is really, in a way, a childlike thing. You know, you want it or you don't want it. You have a tantrum or you don't. You don't have choice. And that is what happened, for example, to me, even though it didn't turn out bad. But when I turned up at my friend's house, instead of going to the cafeteria that we had, made a date at, it's like I did not make a choice. It happened to me. So even inside of us, we can have that. So, for example, that can also happen with people who really don't want to be on their phone. I have so many clients that don't want to be on their phone but end up being at their phone. And so when we become, let's say, an adult, and we take that example, so we have that discomfort that we're on our phone, and it's just, we know we're not going to feel good, but we do not know what to do. So if we are able to get enough practice not to argue with the fact that we're so annoyed with ourselves, and so we don't get ourselves stuck and we don't judge, and when we can acknowledge that this is really happening to me, here I am on my phone again, and I really need to go to sleep now, and it's really, really hard for me. As soon as you can just get a little gap there, and you can observe yourself, you can start getting your adult at the wheel. Now, that is a whole practice that
I'm
we
going
can
to
talk
pause
about
here.
forever, right?
We
Yes.
can talk about this, and I want to carry on talking about why we do that kind of scrolling on the phone. But we're going to take a break, and we're just going to have a little commercial break. You're watching Two Couples Coaches on Bold Brave TV. We'll be back in 2 minutes after the sponsor break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality? But it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, and we're back talking about self-care and how it shows up in the relationship to ourselves and relationship to others. And just before our break, Rivka, we were talking about, gosh, am I still on my phone when I really should be going to bed? How sometimes we feel controlled by something like our phone. And if there's any discomfort, we either might continue scrolling because our brain just wants to be calmed. We don't even know what we're looking for. We don't have any intention. We're just scrolling, just like we might go to the fridge and take out something to eat.
Yes.
And that's a time when we want to go inward and sometimes say, what do I need? And try and name it. And your idea of the whiteboard when people are in session with you is very beautiful, because to name something is to actually tame it
It
and to
absolutely is helpful.
clarify what I want to say, what is really going on for me, can help tame and keep our
Yeah,
inner child
I do.
calm.
I do want to say something about that. But two things is that it's almost like, let's say, when you have that the feeling of discomfort, it is like there's a light going on your dashboard. Now, in real life, in a car, we don't go and like cut the wire so that we won't see, or we don't cover the lights. Is we go and look under the hood, and that is where behavior and need are very interesting partners, because we tend to start focusing on the behavior. We tend to start saying to ourselves, we should not be on our phones. We should not be on our phones. We should not have our phone. My phone is a problem. But from my experience, most of the time, there is a need underneath that behavior. And because that need is unmet, the behavior keeps going. And that does go back to our adaptive child, or to our child brain, or the more limbic part of our brain, which is, it's a kind of like a helpless child that doesn't know how to navigate the world because it doesn't have a frontal cortex yet. And it only knows one way. And then it tries to deal with what is happening. So, for example, when people come to me with behaviors that they really, really dislike, and this can range from, there's a condition trichotillomania, like where you would pull your hair, or even where you would self-harm, or where you get obsessive compulsive behaviors, or, you're on your phone, or eating late at night, or going to bed too late. What is interesting is that the need and the behavior are often not so clear, and finding a need can be really, really overwhelming for people who feel very flooded to begin with, because that's the reason why they're in the behavior. They're trying to help themselves calm down. And so I want to say that for those people who are like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to find my need, although what my need is, that's so hard. It is really hard sometimes. And what is very helpful is to know the four tires, is that not always you can go as deep as finding what happened, what kind of pictures come up from your childhood when you think about being upset about, let's say, being on your phone. And then we can do beautiful work with that, and we can be there for that child again as adults, and recalculate a route, because that's really what getting stuck is about. It's about, you usually don't overreact. There's no such thing as overreacting, right? You don't react to what is present, but you react to something that happened a long time ago that you're reminded of. And so really, if you feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to find my need, then from my experience, first focusing on the four tires, and really making sure, like, even like sometimes for people, just drinking can be an accomplishment, and putting focus on all four of them. So not just, okay, now I'm going to go to sleep, but you do a little bit of drinking, you make sure you have a lunch in the middle of the day, you just clean your sink, and what was the other one? And you've been standing all day, you're actually sitting on the couch. I actually give that example because a lot of people are on to almost the exercise. It's true. Exercise is excellent, but relaxation and relaxing our muscles, there's like beautiful research about this now, how it really, really is more helpful for people that are stuck in grief to learn to relax their muscles than do mindfulness exercises. So going through those four tires can be a real good thing, and especially in the way that the world is right now, where we are so overwhelmed. And then if you want to go and look at your deeper needs, that is wonderful. And it's usually a memory from childhood where you were all on your own and there were no adults around helping you, and you thought you needed to do it all alone. And we get triggered, and we weren't skillful because we were just little kids, and we get reminded, and we are driving that road again. But instead of being angry at that child, we need to learn with compassion to say, sweetheart, like, you don't need to do this anymore. Like, I'm an adult now. I'm 54. I have a husband. I have a practice. I'm helping people with beautiful children, beautiful friends. This time you get to sit in the back and you don't need to do it. You can drive even to somebody that we will drive to somebody that will go help us, but you don't need to do it alone again. So I
That's
find like, yeah, this road of discomfort and learning that we don't need to be scared to be on that road, because we've learned to trust ourselves that we can
right.
get through it.
I
Is
love, sorry.
Go ahead,
I
sweetheart.
I love your reminder to all of us. You don't have to do it alone. We're created together, and we are designed to live our lives together.
Yes,
And to retire that younger, more reactive part of ourselves that might be running our relationships. One of the things you mentioned some diagnoses.
yeah,
So with, if those are untreated, I don't see the couple, because that any condition that might be medically related, an addiction, rage, infidelity, that keeps you out of relationship.
yes,
And those are younger parts of us. So
that's right.
my work is not to judge them as much as
Absolutely.
to bring them
Yes.
in lovingly,
And
but
to
for them
take
to know
care,
the
yeah.
part.
And also, I
Because
think also to appreciate them, because, sometimes we can get so annoyed with these parts of us, and we tend to be judgmental, right? Because as kids, we really don't know to observe and to understand context. But when we become more adults and we can get those adult parts of us to sit in the driver's seat, we get more relational context also for ourselves. And what you were saying about, like, that
I
addiction.
just wanted to,
And,
I just wanted to finish my thought.
oh,
That was,
sorry.
it's
My
okay.
apologies.
No, that's okay. Just because I know you were going to segue into something that I think would be that would connect to it. A river should flow down a mountain rather than up. Parents are supposed to nurture, guide, and limit children,
Yeah.
not the other way around, that children are supposed to look after parents and care for
Yeah.
parents, but very often things are reversed. And
Yes.
that's where the wearing down comes from, the exhaustion. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to do so much caring anymore. I'm done with it.
Yes.
Um, and
Mm.
that's what we need to do to that younger child, needs that limit, the nurturing, the containing, not the judgment so much. That this needs to
Yes,
be.
exactly. You said it very, very beautifully. And it. I very much like how you say that about you gave a nice list of three. You said nurturing, limiting, and what was the third thing you said, or you
Guiding.
don't remember? Excuse me?
Guiding. You
And
need to guide,
guiding. Yes.
nurture. That's what Terry
Yes.
says.
And so that is really beautiful. I didn't know this list of three. And I would say that in our relationship with ourselves, we also need that. We need to
Mm-hmm.
learn to guide ourselves. But in order to guide ourselves, we need to know our roadmap. And we need to know where our highways of habit are. And we need to know when to take a coach with us in the car, when I have a driving instructor with us. We need to know what fuel we need to put in our car. And so, like, I feel like that in a relational, in a healthy relational therapy, then as a therapist or as a coach, you can show up as the GPS for your client until that client learns enough of those tools that then they can drive on their own, right? And that is what is most important about being a driving instructor, I think, as a coach, is that it is a temporary learning where you are just like when you're lucky and you had good parenting, then you can learn a lot of skills, of how to take care of yourselves. And so, yeah, I like very much how there are those three things and how we can use them also looking at ourselves.
Can I ask you a question that I often hear, or comment of people who are afraid of this concept of self-care? How do
Yeah,
you distinguish between genuine self-care and avoidance or
right.
indulgent behavior?
Yeah, It's really, it's a difference between being stuck or in flow, and it's a difference between atomistic and relational look. So I will tell about both those lenses. So, when you're in a car, you never only look at the dashboard, you never only look through the windshield, and you certainly don't want to get stuck in reverse. So the only way that you could survive sitting in a car like that is if you are a passenger, not if you are a driver. So by nature, if you want to take charge of your life, you need to be able to look both inward at your dashboard and understand your needs. You need to both be able to look in the rearview mirror to see what you learned in the past so that you can use it to move forward, but not get stuck in looking at the past. And you need to look out of your windshield because there's other cars driving and you don't want to get in an accident with them. And so, but to be able to drive with those other cars, your car needs to be taken care of. And so I think by nature is that if we get stuck just looking at ourselves, it isn't an adaptive child experience. It's when a person is so flooded that they need to cut themselves off. And if that starts bothering them, then that would be something somebody would come to therapy, come to a coaching with or to therapy with, and to learn to understand. But I think I have a theory.
I'm just going to pause you a minute so we can take a break. You're watching Two Couples Coaches on Bold Brave TV. We'll be back in 2 minutes to continue this conversation after the sponsor break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hi, so I'm back with Rivka, and we're talking about self-care. And you were saying just before the break, Rivka, that it's important to know. I was asking you about indulgent or avoidant behavior looking like self-care, and you were saying so beautifully about looking at the past, and looking to see what your needs are now and where the future, what your intentions are. And I would add to that that if one can verbalize that, that will be very powerful. So we're going to go towards our wrap up.
Sure.
And what I wanted to ask you, what do you suggest for people to become consistent in what it is they say they want for self-care without it becoming another to-do chore?
Another to-do thing. I just want to say that I so remember feeling an item on my own to-do list especially when I was a young mom. I think it's such a challenging time in life, when we get the challenge of learning how to look at ourselves, but we also are taking care of family members and children. I would say that really self-care is not a destination, but it's like a driver's etiquette. It's that you want to make sure that you step in a car that is safe, and just like you would never step in a car with no gas and think that you were going to drive somewhere. It's the same way for us. And and to know that when it becomes really, really hard to take care of yourself, it means that you have unmet needs, and that it's a good idea to take a look at them, and that there's nothing wrong with you, because everybody struggles with self-care. It's a scary thing to do, and part of why it's scary is that's what I was saying about the theory that I have about why self-care can be really, really hard, is because the times that we don't know how to take care of ourselves remind us of the times in our childhood when we were alone and there was no one around to help us. And this happens to everybody, people with wonderful parents and people with parents who were not skillful, because this is just the way that relationships are built. They need to have struggle in order to grow. So, like, for those people who feel like, oh my God, I just suck at this self-care thing and I don't know how to do it, it really, really means that you need to, like, have somebody to look under the hood with. I also don't know always how to take care of my car, and I take it to the garage. So going to coaching or going to therapy is just like that. It's like you take a look under the hood and you look, in the black box of your car, and you see what routes you've taken in the past, and how you want to recalculate your routes, but from a place of compassion, because your compassion is what will help you flow and not get stuck. Not judge yourself for being there. Yeah.
Your compassion for our human flaws is so
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a little bit more kindness, because there's nothing that harshness will do that kindness won't do a little bit better.
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, is there something? So for me, it was almost kind of like, if for it not to become another chore, it's kind of like get it into your routine, so it becomes like cleaning your teeth,
Yeah.
right? Most
Mhm.
of us clean our teeth twice a day without thinking about it so much.
Yeah,
So
that's when you look at self-care. I agree with you. And that's when you look at self-care as the things that we do, which is absolutely true. And then what I was saying before is self-care as a practice of love, of the juice that keeps the relationship going, is holding yourself with a tender eye, and knowing that we are all learning. And I think, like, what happens when we get into that the child driver, or the parts where we get stuck, where we're not happy with what we're doing, is that we feel so lonely. But the irony is that we all feel alone together. It happens to everyone. I get stuck, you get stuck, the people, who live on the street get stuck, the president of the United States gets stuck. It just happens to all human beings. And so it's what unites us and not what sets us apart.
and it's so beautiful. I love the way Thomas Hübel kind of describes it as that getting stuckness, that I'm alone, that's about you and me. The us
Mhm.
part is when you say to me, I'm lonely, and I can say, yes, I feel that. Come,
Yes,
let's take a
yes,
look at that together. And that when I'm alone and you're alone, that can have this ripple effect out. It goes viral, right? Into the community, into the global
absolutely.
sphere. But when we can pause and take each other in and say, I get that. I've been
Yeah.
lonely too. That's empathy. I speak about intimacy as having these three parts. Eva, I call it empathy, vulnerability, and accountability.
Mhm.
Vulnerability is when I stand naked in front of you without judgment. It's that intersection of love and truth, as Pia Melody says. And
Mhm.
accountability, I did that. How can I make it better?
Mhm.
I want to end, coming close to ending, about a beautiful quote you put in when we were
Mhm.
talking beforehand from Kate Reed.
Yes.
Give the world the best of you, not what's left of you. I think that's
Yeah.
a great place to end, isn't it?
Yeah. She was a very lovely. It's a very lovely quote. I even think it's give the world the best of you, not the rest of you. She jokes about how she is like that people think it's Brene Brown or Oprah Winfrey. She's this just this lovely girl that came up with this really beautiful idea. And,
Beautiful.
before when you say give the world the best of you, not the rest of you, it's like you make sure that you show up with a full tank, and you also show up knowing what your needs are at least and taking care of them instead of being dependent on other people to do that for you. It doesn't mean that you can't ask other people for help, but that other person is free to give that to you or not, right?
Right.
But so when you
Thank
say
you.
give the world the best of you and not the rest of you, it is, for me, it is a wonderful memory of how a way to think, to remember, to know that you can fill your tank, and that is how you can actually drive to the people that you love and take care of them and be together with them and choose the relationships that you want.
Beautiful. Rivka, thanks so much for joining us
It was
today.
lovely. Thank you for the honor
You've
of
been
being here.
You've been
All
on Two
right.
Couples Coaches here on Bold Brave TV. We're live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. ET, and you can also find us on all major podcast and video platforms. We'd love to hear from you. You can continue sending us questions. I'll pass them on to Rifka, or Rifka, maybe you'll put we'll put your email in the show
Sure.
notes.
Will be my
Send us
pleasure.
questions. You can
I
also
will
send them
answer you.
to twocouplescoaches@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media and YouTube, and visit our individual websites to learn more about our work. All the links will be in the show notes. And if you've ever asked yourself, how do we make this relationship stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling? This is the podcast for you. So thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time. And please be kind to yourselves and your
Mhm.
partner this week. Thank
Oh,
you.
amen.
This has been Two Couples Coaches with your hosts, Bev and Suzette. Tune in each week as Bev and Suzette share expert insights, have heart-to-heart conversations with guests, answer listener questions, and dive into the challenges and joys of building a life together. Because in relationships, just like in life, growth happens when you show up, stay curious, and keep evolving together. Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern, on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.